Welcome to another message on church history. This is number 125. I'm on page 460 and the history of Southern Baptists in California. It's also a history of missionary Baptists in California. History of landmark Baptists in California also. The Southern Baptist Convention always downed the landmark missionary Baptist. They said that they didn't believe in mission work. They did believe in mission work. They just didn't join the convention. They established the American Baptist Association and other General Baptist Associations, different associations, and they all did mission work. And you'll hear, as I read some of these things, you'll hear the derogatory remarks about the landmarkers. And but the landmarkers are the ones that brought the Baptist churches into California to begin with. They were the earliest Baptist churches. Brother Dud Pointer, which was the one that gave this book to me and introduced me to the presbytery. If you go look at that early messages of Dr. Jim, or Jim Phillips, Pastor Jim Phillips, on sermon audio, you can listen to the ordination in 1971 or something around there. And you'll hear Brother Dud Pointer starting about the 2-minute mark, introducing me to the presbytery. He was a very important man in Baptist church history in California. The Bakersfield Green Acres Southern Baptist Church, the Green Acres Church, Southern Baptist Church, located at 2400 Dean Avenue in rural Bakersfield, was organized in 1947. And the first pastor was G.E. Lackey, brother of R.W. Lackey. And Brother Pointer was there also, by the way. Brother Dud Pointer was there when that church was organized. It says the present membership is 96. It says the Green Acres Church participated in the regular activities of the San Joaquin Valley Association and makes a small but regular contribution to the cooperative program. They are Missionary Baptist Church. That's what it was. And they did send money to the Southern Baptist Convention. Bakersfield Greenfield Southern Baptist Church, another one. That's Green Acres there now. Now we're going to go to Greenfield. That's not about, what, 15 miles from where we live, or lived there in Old River. The Bakersfield Greenfield Southern Baptist Church, the Greenfield Southern Baptist Church located in rural Bakersfield, was organized February the 22nd, 1948 with 15 members. The first meeting was held in the home of Henry Cash, a layman, and assisted by Dud Pointer. Again, they mentioned him here this time. And the organization of several other original 13 churches which organized the state convention. The organization meeting was held at Wayside Baptist Church. Now, by the way, I have preached in this church, and I have preached in the Wayside Baptist Church. All of these churches I have preached in at one time or another in the last 50-something years. The Wayside Baptist Church, where Pointer was pastor at the time, but wasn't long, however, until Pointer returned back to the landmark camp. He never left the landmark camp. He was always a missionary Baptist and a landmark missionary Baptist until he died, but he worked for the Southern Baptist Association or Convention also. They should have appreciated him. The first pastor was Ed Hawthorne, and then Herman Starr and Lawrence Brantley. And we have another one here that we ought to be very interested in, because this one here is the mother church, or one of the mother churches, the Valley Baptist Church. Bakersfield Hillcrest Baptist Church. Hillcrest Baptist Church. And by the way, this is where First Missionary Baptist Church in Bakersfield and New Hope Missionary Baptist Church and all of these little churches that come out of there, that's where they came from also, is from this church right here. Hillcrest Baptist Church, Bakersfield, did not grow from a mission. It was sponsored by or sponsored by any other congregation, but the result of the efforts of G.F. Loving. Now, I talked to this man. I knew him. I talked to the original church members there. I talked to some of them that are back in Springfield, Missouri. I went back there and talked to them. I got letters from them, and I wanted to find out how this church, the church that I was pastoring at that time, New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, wanted to know the history of our church. There were two foundations of that church. One was out of Taft, where Brother Pointer had, and Sam had done that one out there. Well, Sam Wisconsin and Brother Doug Pointer, they founded that church. Pointer and Will Coxon both pastored that church, and that was it. And then when Lee Wright came there, he said they didn't think that the foundation of the church was good, so he wanted to go from a different foundation. And the different foundation was this foundation, right here. I think a more direct, better landmark missionary foundation would have been out of Taft and not out of this one. But this is how it happened. And I was part of this also. Loving had been pastor of First Southern Baptist Church in Bakerfield for 5 years, and after a brief stay out of the state, returned, and he got a few Baptists together. And what they did, they got a few Baptists together in a home. They started teaching Sunday school classes. That's what it says here. But I know more about it than the book does, because I researched this situation thoroughly. They all came out of Texas and different places, and when they founded this church, they brought some Southern Baptist baptism, the missionary Baptist baptism, but also Bible Baptist baptism. And some of the Bible Baptist baptism was a little bit questionable, and it came out of Texas. So anyway, that's the foundation of this church here. Doug Pointer was part of this also. It had a good foundational leaders here. Both of these men were real missionary Baptists. First Missionary Baptist Church, New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, all of them came out of this. But I think New Hope came out of the old Taft foundation before they went, Lee Wright went over there and reorganized the church out of this one. The Bakersfield Trinity Baptist Church is a monument to the missionary spirit of First Missionary Baptist Church in the city. Organized in 1951 with 166 charter members. Now, Marilyn, you've been in this church. You've been next door to this church. I preached in the mission there at what was not a mission now at Jezreel Missionary Baptist Church, right next door to this. It's a Spanish church. Their church was organized in a building which was purchased and moved onto the site at 903 Mount Vernon Avenue. The transition was made at a cost of more than $5,000 to the First Missionary Baptist Church. Soon after the church was organized, the pastoral call was extended to Quincy Phillips. Now the Bakersfield Wayside Church, this is what we call the Southgate Church. I preached in the Southgate Church. I think maybe there's a message, it's all on audio, nothing on video at that time, and it was on reel-to-reel tapes. I still got a reel-to-reel player again now, and I've got to go back, if I ever get moved, and go back and see if the Lord gives me life and all to do all this. But there's quite a few reel-to-reel messages that I have that I never got on cassette, because I went from cassette to CDs to get this onto the websites on Sermon Audio and YouTube both. And I hope that I preached. There was a youth rally here, and I preached, and 3 or 4 people were saved, and 4 or 5 people came forth to baptism. Every time I'd preach at a youth rally, this would happen. And I was young at that time. I was in my early 20s. 15 charter members in Oildale. When it was organized, the name Southgate Baptist Church was agreed upon. It was actually Southgate Missionary Baptist Church. And when the property was secured, the Wayside edition of the church was named, changed to correspond with the location. First pastor was Jarvel T. Harmon, and then Bruce Benson, and then Doug Pointer, again, my associate, who served from 1946 to 1949. Even though Pointer participated in the organization of the state convention, he has been known for some time as a landmark. Again, down the man. The man helped build churches. He helped found the Southern Baptist or San Joaquin Southern Baptist Convention. But he was a landmarker. What he was, he believed in close communion and no alien immersion. That's it. And wherever he went, he brought that with him. Under his leadership, the church ceased to cooperate with the Southern Baptists, and when he resigned, however, the congregation called Willie Elms, who during a 3-year ministry brought it back in the Southern Baptist fold. And then J.R. DeLapp was called. And these are men that I knew, but they were getting very old when I was in my ministry in the late 60s and early 70s. The church at Delano was organized with 5 charter members in 1938. Guess who was there? Dud Pointer. Again, Dud Pointer. Became known as the Independent Missionary Baptist Church of Delano. When the state convention was organized, it became a cooperating constituency and adopted the name First Southern Baptist Church instead of the Independent Missionary Baptist Church. The first pastor was Tom Raines, and then Irwin Martin, and then A.E. Grissom. Tom Raines became pastor for the second time in 1940, served until April the following year. Now remember, the pastors didn't stay in churches very long at this time. But the preacher's kids, the little PKs growing up, they would live in this city and that city, and would go to all these different schools. They might have to go to, time they got to high school, they might have gone to 16 different schools or something. When he resigned, the church remained pastorless until 1942 when F.W. Carter began a 10-year pastorate. That's unusual. With the congregation, Carter preached to 3 people at the first service, and he resigned in 1952 and was succeeded by the present pastor, George Findlay. Lamont First Baptist Church. Guess who's there? Dud Pointer. Again. I think he was part of all of the 13 Baptist churches that were founded. The First Baptist Church of Lamont was known as the Lamont Missionary Baptist Church. Missionary Baptists and Southern Baptists were the same number, gender case, basically. Except the Southern Baptists began to go away from close communion and adhere to alien immersion. Organized with 9 members, 1938. The church was organized by, guess who? Dud Pointer, Dudley Pointer, who served as pastor for the first 3 years. He was succeeded by Sam Dunham and Ed Hawthorne, and then Ben Hill, and then a group organized the Harmony Hill Baptist Church, the Harmony Hill, in 1949. The Harmony Hill was out there in Hilltop, and was succeeded by H.C. Lucas, and then Waldrop, and then Orrin Doves. The Lamont Church has been closely identified with Southern Baptist work. It assisted in organizing the South San Joaquin Valley Association and state conventions. The one that did that was Dud Pointer, but they didn't want to give him credit, so they said the church did. Lamont Harmony Missionary Baptist Church was organized in 1948 with 34 members. The First Baptist Church in the same city, Brent said that membership was 170. Van Cunningham. Now remember, back in these times, if you drove 5 miles to church, that was a long way back in those days. You may have to walk, because those old cars didn't sometimes get you there, or your horse, or whatever you drove. There's a lot of people riding horses to church back then still. They were hitching posts in the front of the churches. First pastor was Van Cunningham, and then Lennox Medford. For almost a year after the church was organized, the service was held in the homes of the members in the Lamont School cafeteria. That's right there before you get to Lamont on the left-hand side. In August 1949, the congregation moved into a new auditorium 8 additional Sunday school rooms, a kitchen, and a dining room were added in 1953. The church has always been friendly to the Southern Baptist Convention as well as the state. Dud Pointer helped found this church. Oildale First Missionary Baptist Church, founded in 1938. Guess who was there? Dud Pointer. Again, every one of them. The old records of the First Missionary Baptist Church of Oildale have been destroyed. So this church is the one that Valley Baptist Church came from. Oh. Again, Roger Spradling was pastoring this church, and then Phil Neighbors is the one over there on Nile Street, and they went together. And there was another man also, I think, out of Tehachapi, that went together with them. Dud Pointer, however, it is known that Dud Pointer organized the church with 9 charter members in 1938. J.A. Haley was among the early pastors, and Vester Wolber, Orville Sanders, and A.T. Estes, which I worked for him, picking the fruit on his fruit orchard, and which time he resigned, taking with him a group from Oildale along with others from the First Southern Baptist Church in Bakersfield in order to organize Central Baptist Church in Bakersfield in 1947. And I preached in that one too. The church was been under the Patterson leadership of Brother Trammell, Russell Trammell, during which time it made consistent growth. The South Gate Church, known as the Wayside Baptist Church in Bakersfield, and Riverview Baptist Church located near Oildale, and that's where I preached the revival. Remember, in Oildale there at the Riverview Baptist Church? Mm-hmm. You had pneumonia at that time. You couldn't come to the last meeting, I think. Grew from a mission sponsored by the Oildale congregation. Few churches have figured more prominently in Baptist beginnings than the Oildale Church in 1943. Now, when I was a member of this Valley Baptist Church, you could go inside and walk into the big auditorium, and over to the left-hand side, the hallway there was the original charter members, and Dud Pointer was on them. His children and grandchildren went to church there at Valley Baptist. They were all members of it. Both of the daughters died, and I think the boy, Dwayne, is still there. Oildale, Riverview Baptist Church. This is the one where I preached, the revival. I went there and preached on this chart behind me for a whole week there, and I mean the people were just absolutely thrilled to learn from God's Word. The Riverview Baptist Church in Oildale was organized in 1952 with 27 charter members. Ray Bundy was the pastor, and the church started under shade trees in a man's backyard. Guess who was preaching in the shade tree in a man's backyard? Dud Pointer. A little over a year after the mission was started, the church was organized. When the church was organized, Bundy, who had previously acknowledged his call to the ministry, was ordained and called as pastor by the assistance of Dud Pointer again. The church is listed as a cooperating constituent of the San Joaquin Valley Association. I think it quit associating with the Southern Baptist. It became basically a Bible Baptist church later. Shafter First Missionary Baptist Church. Guess who was there? Samuel Scoxon and Dud Pointer. The first Southern Missionary Baptist Church was organized in May of 1936 with 16 members. It was called Orthodox Missionary Baptist Church of Shafter. The first Orthodox Missionary Baptist Church of Shafter. And this is some of your friends are all part of that, all the Mausers, Maryland. And one of them I went to school with also. After it was organized in the morning, 3 others joined on profession of faith in the evening service. A permanent pastor was not called for a time, but Joe Hardcastle served, and G.W. Mauser, Tom Raines, and Samuel Coxon. During the formative years, the leadership of Samuel Coxon took the initiative in organizing the San Joaquin Valley Association in 1939 with who? Dud Pointer. Again. The state convention was also organized in the Shafter Church in 1940. The Mauser family there really gave a lot in the building of that church, and still having. I preached in that church. I was their preaching pastor for quite a while. Through all the years, the members of the congregation have been generous in their gifts to Children's Home Fund. It was Marvin Mauser, a member of the church, who gave the first dollar to the fund in 1941. The next year, his brother Henry gave $200. That's a lot of money back then, people. In 1951, Marvin gave the home a valued piece of farmland valued at $10,000 or $12,000, which would probably be $300,000 or $400,000 or more today, maybe $1 million. Their church changed its name to First Southern Baptist Church in 1951. Taft Temple Baptist Church. Marilyn, you've been in that church. We've been in that church, visited there several times. I went there quite a few times when I went to move from Nevada to California. Temple Baptist Church in Taft has been known by various names and organized in 1928, and Dud Pointer was there. It is known sometime in 1930 Dud Pointer was a pastor, and that during early 20s or 30s it was affiliated with the Landmark movement. Still is. But now it's still a Landmark church, but it is a totally independent church. They're not a member of any association at all. They give directly to missionaries. The church was practically extinct in 38-39 when T.B. Ellis, with the insistence of Samuel Coxon, went to the Taft and resurrected it. There was some decision in the church because a woman preacher who had been invited to hold a meeting, but finally settled down to a cooperation church and participated in the organization of the San Joaquin Valley Association, and Dud Pointer was a part of that. Vester Wolver was pastor in 1940. Burnett Whitaker, I.V. Simmons, L.H. Waldrop, Cecil Winfrey, G.F. Swain, and C.E. Robertson were all, and Charles Jones have all taken turns pastoring this church. The church has from time to time had some capable, enthusiastic leaders, but it has been for some time since many tragic Baptist rows. There have been short periods when the church was generous in its gifts to missions, but much of the time has given little or nothing toward the spread of the gospel. Always it gave to the spread of the gospel, I might say, but not through the Southern Baptist Convention. Always direct missions, or through ABA, American Baptist Association, for a while. The San Jose Association now. San Jose Association. Cambrian Park Baptist Church in Campbell was organized in 1952. And then the Campbell First Baptist Church was organized also in 1946. The Gilroy First Baptist Church was organized in 1945. I'm not going to read a whole lot of them. McAllister was one of them, and I went to school, and one of the teachers there was McAllister, which is a descendant of this man. Morgan Hill First Baptist Church, and it was organized in 1951. Palo Alto Temple Baptist Church was organized with 13 members in 1950. Redwood City Calvary Baptist Church was organized in 1946. The San Jose Alum Rock Baptist Church was organized in 1952. The church evidently grew from a mission sponsored by Baptist Temple in San Jose. The pastor was W.W. Davis. When the mission out of which the church grew was started, Baptists were informed that the Alum Rock was a Catholic community and that they were not wanted there. Considerable effort was made to prevent the group from getting a place to meet and to worship. When arrangements were made for the first service, and a bunch of hoodlums met on an adjoining lot and began playing hillbilly music so loud that the preacher could not be heard. The Executive Secretary S.G. Posey and pastors nearby Southern Baptist Church wrote letters to the members of the local planning commission encouraging them to grant the church a permit to hold services in the community. See, Baptists weren't always wanted, especially where you have a strong Catholic constituency there. They don't want any Baptists in there because they're going to lose their Catholics. Their efforts paid off and the church lived, and the present membership is 60. The San Jose Baptist Temple was organized in 1945, and their first pastor was Fred R. Barnes, a former Methodist minister who became Baptist by conviction. Marilyn, when we got married, basically you were a Methodist, weren't you?
Yeah.
But it didn't take long for you to become a Baptist when I started talking about church history. Not long at all. You know what baptism was and everything. San Jose Mexican Southern Baptist Church. And the San Thomas First Southern Baptist Church in 1947. Sunnyvale Bethel Baptist Church. And guess what again? You know, when Methodists and when a lot of these people start studying their Bible, the Congregationalists, they end up being Baptist. You know that? And you'd be surprised. I went to school with Tim Sullivan. Tim Sullivan was a brilliant man. He had studied to be a priest in the Catholic Church. And he got so far, and he was doing really well. He was in the seminary and everything else until he got converted. He got saved. Under the discipline and the preaching of Darius Sherwood Madden, by the way. Brother Madden. And he was a member of his church there, and he taught at CMI with me, and he was a student. I taught him, and he taught me. He was a student teacher. Now it says here that the present pastor is W. Martin Brannon, who was a Methodist until he attended service at First Baptist Church in Shafter for several years, and guess who was there? Doug Pointer and Sam Wisconsin. And the doctrinal preaching of Sam Wilcoxon was too much for him, and he became a Baptist by convention. Under his leadership, which began in 1950, the church grew numerically and has moved out of the lodge hall into a home of its own. And it's a member of the San Joaquin Valley Association now. Now we come to Farmersville. Farmersville First Southern Baptist Church. It was established in 1950. D.B. Hurd was the first pastor, and then A.C. Lamb. And then Roger Uter, I went to school with, and this is his family we're going to talk about. I went up here and preached in some of these areas, up in Lindsay and all over. They wanted me to preach everywhere. I had a car that wouldn't hardly go 10 miles, and I was going 100 miles and 50 and 75 miles to preach, and the car kept running somewhat. I went down, I'll tell you a little story about this. I was going to the seminary. I started driving a Dodge van down there, and I sold the Dodge van and took the money and invested in my education. I went to the Middle East and spent from December 1975, I believe it was, until May of 1976. I got 4 units of archaeology over there. But that little car that I was driving almost all these places was a little old Datsun. The engine was really worn, pretty bad, and I had to keep an engine warmer on it before it would start. If it ever got cold, it didn't want to start. And I went down to the seminary, and I drove that car up to a little hamburger place called Scotty's Broiler, and I walked in there, and I was studying my Greek Bible. And here this guy, this Greek, comes up to me, this Greek man. His name was Frank Kyriakos or Photios Kyriakopoulos, if you want to say it in Greek, right? He said, "You read that Greek?" And, "Yeah, I can read that Greek." "Oh, boy, not very many of my people could do that. Not that Greek. That's old Greek." You know, like I was reading from uncials, all the uncials. Not capitals and sentences, but all the uncials where nothing was separated. And I'm reading this thing to him from Museals. He said, wow, wow, you really can read this thing. He couldn't read it. He couldn't separate the words. He's Greek, and he went to seminary too to become a Greek Orthodox pastor. Well, after a while there, he saw that old car wasn't doing very well. When I went to his house, I'd go at his house and fix his plumbing and different things for him. And, you know, in the evening, visit with him and everything, and talk to him. He had realized that I had guided him on Greenhorn Mountain when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And he remembered that, my red Ford pickup that I was driving up there. He said, you took that pickup where I would take my Jeep. Well, anyway, I started guiding him again, off and on. And he offered to buy me a car because that car wouldn't hardly run. He said, here's my card. You go down any place, any car, and buy you a new car. Tell them to call me and I will pay for it. I wouldn't let him do it. That's the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. He wanted to help me. He wanted to do it in the name of the Lord, and I didn't allow him to because I was too proud. When I ask for money on here, it really bothers me. But we need it really bad. But now I accept it very readily because I know better. I didn't know better then. I was too proud to accept anything. But anyway, the Lindsay Church, Brother Euder's family was up there. The Southern Baptist Church in Lindsay goes back to the early 40s when Mrs. Sally L. Euder, the widow of a Baptist minister, contacted R.W. Lackey and gave all of her property to the Southern Baptist Convention. And then they had a hard time getting it for a long time. But Euder, Roger's family, was this family that I went to school with. The Porterville First Southern Baptist Church where I preached, there's two churches in Porterville. I preached in both of them. The First Southern Baptist Church in Porterville was organized in 1939. Guess who was there? Dud Pointer. 12 charter members. Their church was organized following a revival meeting held by Dud Pointer. The first pastor was Turman, and then Henry Simpson, John Alexander, Thomas Hicks, Tom Raines, you've heard of him before. A few churches have had more stormy career than Porterville. It was organized following a revival meeting, and a well-known landmark was the evangelist. That's Brother Pointer. From that time on to the years, the landmarks have come and gone. They're still there. That church is a landmark church today. Nevertheless, they stayed long enough to cause considerable disturbance in the fellowship of the church. Well, it was a landmark church. They started giving to the Southern Baptist Convention, and then they wanted more money and more money and more money and total control. They wanted them to accept alien immersion and open communion, and it didn't happen. That church is still a sound church as far as I know today. The Porterville congregation is one of the oldest Southern Baptist churches in the state, and also one of the original 13 which took part in the organization of the Sage Convention. Has been through many trials and rendered worthy service to the Lord of the harvest to the denomination. The Porterville Tule River Southern Missionary Baptist Church. And I preached in that one too. Brother Pointer helped build this church. The Tule River Southern Missionary Baptist Church in Porterville grew from a mission established by First Southern Baptist Church in the same city and was organized in 1949 with 22 members. Robert Turman was the pastor at that time. It has off and on given to the San Joaquin Valley Association, but it gives very little. It gave to the American Baptist Association also, and it was very mission-minded, regardless of what they say. Now let's go on a little bit further. Let me check my time here. We might quit right here. Yep, we'll stop right here and start another message. From that time on, I hope that you're learning from this. You're learning from the history of the churches in California and the difference between Southern Baptist and Landmark Baptist and independent Baptist churches. The Baptists have always taught one thing, that we believe the Bible, we teach from the Bible, we believe that every church is an independent church, a pure democracy, with the only head of that church is Jesus Christ, and the pastors are the servants of those churches and the servants and leaders of the churches. I'm reading a book right now. I read about 5 or 6 books at the same time, but I'm reading a book right now, the Grassy Creek Baptist Church. It goes all the way back to North Carolina, and it goes back into the 1600s. And it goes back and it says, this is what we believe. We believe that every man that's born into this world has the right to believe what the Bible teaches him to follow. That there is no church that has a right to marry the church and the state and force people to go to church. That religion is an independent, individual freedom that God gives you. And Baptists have always believed in baptizing by immersion people. Baptizing by immersion is the only form of baptism. Baptists have always believed that Matthew 16:18 says, Jesus talking to Peter and his church. He said, you're Peter, but upon this great foundational rock, me, Jesus, I'll be building my church, and the gates of hell shall not wrestle her down. And the gates of hell have tried to wrestle her down, as you see. These red dots here are blood that God's people had to shed to carry on the gospel all through these ages. The Lord Church has always believed in close communion and no alien immersion, no immersion by any other group, even though it may be baptism by immersion. But if they don't have any authority to baptize, it's no good. The Southern Baptist Church now believes that the pastor has the right to baptize people. He can go baptize whoever he wants to. That's how they get by with what they're doing. The real true Baptist church is the Baptist church votes on who they're going to baptize, who they're going to accept as members of the church, when they're going to have the Lord's Supper, who they extend the Lord's Supper to, members of that church. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll get right back into this again in a little bit. Our Father, thank you for the history of your people, that they've stood for you through down through the ages, and that you have true churches still in this world today because of them, because of your promise. Please forgive me where I fail you. In Jesus' name.